Hello, Bill.
That's very pessimistic of you, isn't it? In a year from now, we're going to be out of the EU.
Well, are we really? It doesn't look like it. We're going to have to pay them lots of money, carry on obeying lots of their laws, have open borders for quite a long time, when anybody who feels like it can come in, bring their relatives, and we're going to be restricted on what we can do in the trade deals outside. We can't have competitive taxation or competitive laws to govern our own businesses, which would make us competitive against the EU. It pretty much all looks like, and of course we've got Theresa May's security and defence policy, treaty that she wants to negotiate, which would mean we're going to be bound to the EU's ambitions for its own army and armed forces. So that doesn't look to me much like leaving. It's like I've been predicting for the last few years. What they'll end up with is an agreement where we appear to have left, we leave in name, but we don't actually leave in reality.
It sounds,
that doesn't have to be that way, by the way.
Wait a minute. Surely this whole interim period, this transition period, is to avoid that so-called cliff edge, and that's certainly not what British business and industry wants to do it. They simply don't want us to fall off a cliff. Your colleague Nathan Gill told this programme that this period will give businesses a safety net.
Well, what you need in politics is leadership, and that's precisely what we haven't had for the last almost 2 years from the Prime Minister and from our government and Parliament. They haven't led us in this process at all. They've constantly gone to the EU and said, oh, please, how may we leave? And what kind of an answer do they expect from the European Union that doesn't want us to leave anyway? The whole thing is a complete mess. They've gone about it the wrong way. They should have told the European Union how we're going to leave, offered them solutions to the problems and said this is how it's going to work. Instead of that, they've done quite the reverse, and they've done it for a reason, which is that they don't really want to leave anyway. They're trying to find a way of delaying this whole thing as long as possible, and the best outcome for them is to reverse the whole thing at the next general election, or at best to negotiate a deal where we don't really leave, we're half in, we're half out, so they can take us back in later in a few years' time. That's where we are, because we have a quisling and traitorous government and House of Commons. But it doesn't have to be that way. We could have taken decisive action and got ourselves out, and it's never too late to do that. We can always do that if we have a government that provides some real leadership.
Gerard, talking of never too late, we had your statement today. We've also heard from Tony Blair. He says there is still time, it's not too late to stop Brexit. Do you think people are now worried? Those people who not just didn't want to go, but those people who have voted to leave are perhaps changing their minds now?
I think that the people who... You've seen today polls that say that 65% of people don't want a second referendum, for example, and I think increasingly people who voted, even Remainers, a lot of them voted through Project Fear, don't forget. A lot of people only voted to Remain because they were fearful of the threats that were being made. They can now see that those threats were empty, and they're increasingly seeing the bullying and tyrannical nature of the EU itself. So I don't want a second referendum. I think if there was one, we'd get a bigger majority, but let's just implement the will of the people that we had in the last referendum and get on with it. And as for Tony Blair, why on earth would anybody listen to anything that discredited man has to say?
Just finally, interesting time for you. Are you enjoying the interim UKIP leadership role? Do you fancy taking on full-time as things are really heating up now with Brexit?
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear that, Bill. Could you say that again?
Do you want to be the leader of UKIP? Are you enjoying your interim leadership at the moment?
What I've said today, I put a message out to all of our members, is that I took this job on purely and simply in order to save the party from going under, which it was about to do. I've reversed that situation completely. We now have enough money in the party to put us into the black. We have financial stability, and I want to provide some organisational stability. And I've offered myself to the membership as the leader for the next 12 months. But the only way to do that is if we have an uncontested election. So I think most people in the party would back me in that because they trust me to actually lead the party forward and to get some real organisation going in what, when I took it over, was a hollowed-out shell of a party. We got money back, we're going to get organisation working, and we need to put it back on track politically. I'm willing to do that for the next 12 months, and I think most of our members will be happy to see me do that. But that can only work if we have another uncontested election. Otherwise, we have to have a full election, and whoever wins will get a 4-year term.
Gerard, thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you tonight. Gerard Batten.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.